Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, the Two Opinionated podcast could really use your help. And it's easy, it's free. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, imdb.com, named us a top 100 podcast. We came in at number 82. That's a big deal because there's 15 million podcasts and growing. So to be named to anybody's top 100 list, pretty big deal for us. And the way you can help is to go to imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and that's it. Just bringing our page up. That traffic really helps us out. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. All we ask is that you subscribe. It's also free, but that really helps us to attract these amazing guests that we keep bringing on the program. And that's it. 2 easy ways for you to support us, and we would really appreciate the help. Now let's get to that interview. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Opinionated. I'm so excited today. I've got actress Marta Kristen with me. So welcome, Marta.
Thank you.
You know, I've been watching you my entire life. Yeah, one thing, we were talking offline a little bit about Star Wars and Planet of the Apes and some of that. One of the shows that I loved when we first got cable TV, and Lost in Space, I love that too, but that's not what I'm talking about. But it was Alfred Hitchcock Presents, because TBS used to show the reruns when they first, kind of came out as a station. And I loved Alfred Hitchcock, and you were on one of those.
I was on 2 of those.
Oh, 2 of those. Okay.
Actually, the first one was called The Gloating Place with Susan Harrison.
Yeah.
And it was really scary because it was all done quietly, like Hitchcock did. Yeah. And it's about a girl who's very jealous of the prom queen and all of that. Yes, and I was that. Which was far from who I was, but I played it. And there's a man who is killing young women and wears white gloves. So I'm at a park.
Creepy.
It's really creepy. So and she's very jealous and becomes obsessive about me. And so I'm in a park, and I'm looking in a lake, and you see these white gloves come around my neck. Now, and it's her.
Yeah.
But she's copycatting him. And and after that I began to worry about, you sort of take those fears on a little bit as an actor.
Alfred could teach our horror people today a little bit about just being scary without needing to throw in a ton of gore.
You're absolutely right. It's all those fears that we have,
right?
Of, the hands reaching in, that are not real, but that we all have. It's that inner terror.
Yeah.
Of those little things that people are so afraid of spiders, and most spiders are afraid of them. But it's that same kind of, you see a spider, a small thing, tears you apart. Or some people.
He kind of preyed on the uneasiness that we all just have naturally.
Exactly. That's what he did. And like, after watching Psycho, I wouldn't take a shower for years.
None of us would.
No, like, and the music, without the music, I don't know, it wouldn't have been nearly as scary, I think, but it's that.
Oh yeah. It would get you every time. Yeah. And it didn't matter because, a lot of those, if I remember right, were just black and white. And
yes.
Yeah. And it was still really scary.
Well, no, but black and white, especially with those kind of fears, I think highlights or heightens.
I think you're right.
That fear. Black and white, it's not real. It's, it's black and white. It doesn't have that, that feeling that, of that blood and gore and feeling. It has that unspoken
Yeah.
terror, at in black and white. You're sort of disassociated. It disassociates reality, but at the same time, when it crosses to you, it's that I don't know, for some reason it just is more
Well, you're
effective.
right. You're describing it pretty well.
Well, I have it. Fear.
Do you
Fear.
remember, speaking of shower scenes, do you remember a movie called Dress to Kill?
Um,
I think it was a
was
De
it
Palma
British?
movie. De Palma
Oh,
movie.
De Palma movie. No, I probably never saw it because
It
of the
Angie
title.
Dickinson, I think, was the star in it.
Oh,
But I only remember it because there was a scene in shower where a woman gets killed.
yeah.
And as a teenage boy, we'd snuck downstairs. I was staying with a friend. We snuck downstairs to watch on HBO. And we were just excited to see a shower scene. And then then she gets killed. And to this day, me and my friend, we're still close. We still talk about the movie that scarred us the most
For
because
life.
we were not expecting anything like that.
No.
And so you always have that movie that they say, what movie affected you the most? And I was like, well, a lot of movies affected me positively, but I can tell you the one that affected me negatively the most. And that was Dress to Kill.
Yeah. Well, the title alone, I think I stayed away from it after a
Yeah.
cycle.
Yeah. I haven't watched it since. I was probably 12, 13 years old. And I was
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah.
Damaged you for life.
Damaged me for life. I couldn't do it. So Marta, I jumped ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what got you into acting, because I think that's a really interesting story, but a tough field to get into. What made you want to be an actress?
Well, I've talked about it a lot about being an orphan,
Mm-hmm.
and I am in a Norwegian orphanage, and I was German, and I was not
Well, your mom was
terribly.
Finnish, maybe, is that right?
I was Finnish and
Yeah.
German, yeah.
Yeah.
And my father had been a German pilot,
Yeah.
and so I was not terribly accepted in the orphanage. The older people did, but the children, they're cruel. And so
That's right.
my way of trying to win them over was entertaining. And, and I would
Go
sing
figure.
and I would dance, and in a way, I could do that. They did see a certain. I entertained them somewhat, and so I was accepted a little bit more, but there was that voice that I heard saying, this this is something that will help you survive
That's
in
right.
this life. And finally, when I was adopted by a couple in Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't quite know what was happening. But when I got off the plane, I walked towards them like my light keeps going on, like Charlie Chaplin, right? Like Charlie Chaplin. And that must be my parents. And so I'm walking toward them like Charlie Chaplin, again, so fearful
Yeah.
of what I had been on a plane from Norway to New York all by myself. I didn't have what I called a smeller, which I always had with me. That they threw that out because it was an old rag, and everything was new. But I used that same instinct I had when in the orphanage. Entertain, you'll be accepted, you'll be loved.
Yeah.
So I think all actors have that basic intuition, feeling that, they can touch others through their own vulnerability. Even though, even at that, as a child, I didn't know that that's what I was
Right.
doing, but I intuited that if I did it, I might open up people to accept me. And so
I think that's a difficult, that's a lot for a child to have to go through. I mean, one, you were having difficulties being accepted because of things you had no control over. So that's difficult in itself. Most people, I think, would have taken that as a very negative experience, but you turned it into a positive. You kind of took what you learned there and it's helped you through your life.
Yeah. I'm going to turn this off, turn it around. Yeah.
It just wants a little attention.
It does. It says, I'm a light. I'm a light. I'm here. Yes. Thank you. Yes, as a child, of course, you don't know, you just do it. And I have always felt a certain strength in I don't know why, but I've sort of just plowed through things, and I think you're right about control. It's so much of it was about control.
Yeah.
And my daughters always say, you're so controlling. I say, what? But yeah, it's a way of feeling like you have some way to not manipulate, but to hold yourself together
Yeah.
by taking you know, that one step forward and the next step forward, and knowing that and trusting that life will be there. Life will also have you'll have some way of doing doing things that I'm sorry if I'm distracted. Anyway,
Let me come over and turn that thing off for you.
Turn that off. Anyway, so yeah, you're right. In other words, you're right. It's about feeling like you're safe.
Yeah.
And the way to make yourself safe is by controlling, by figuring out how to win the moment. And that's pretty much what I did.
Yeah. I think that's incredible, because I think a lot of people, it would have messed up a little bit. You know, I don't know that a lot of people would have come out of that situation and say, found a career path.
Right, that's true. But my parents were educators. My father was a professor of philosophy of education, and my mother was a school teacher. So they immediately saw what I was doing.
Yeah.
And they nourished that.
Well, good for them.
Yeah, oh yeah. They immediately put me, well, because I couldn't speak English, of course, they put me into dance. So I was able to express myself through dance. And with all these little kids, you know, I'm picking my nose and, you know, but I did my own dance, you know, which was strange. And, but I have pictures of myself as a little girl, just sort of, they're all dancing and I'm just like, you know, expressing myself, my own emotions, not theirs.
Well, and I'm sure there was a lot going into that dance, even at a young age, because you've been through so much.
Right. I still do that, by the way.
Do you
turn
really?
on music and I dance around the house. I love it. Yeah. I'm glad no one's watching. I mean, it's like they say dance like there's no one watching. Well, that's what I do.
I love that. I love that. And I think I don't dance. You know, that's something I'm an introvert. I've always struggled expressing myself that way. But, you know, my wife and the kids are all they kind of dance. You know, when they're happy, they dance. When they're sad, they dance. You know, it's just it's a way to express themselves that they're comfortable with. And I love it. I think it's such a positive way to express yourself.
It is. And it helps get rid of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I got to ask you about Lost in Space. And I know you get tired of probably talking about it.
No, I love Lost in Space.
Me too. So I always got a story. So,
Yeah.
you know, we didn't get cable until 1978. So I remember that day. It was a big day. And really the only channel we got was TBS, but the picture was better, you know, so you got that. But my grandparents got cable several years before that. So when I would go up there for the summer, I'd spend summers with them. Lost in Space, they showed it from 6 to 8 in the morning, every morning, the reruns.
Oh.
And that's where I was kind of introduced to the majority of your work back at that time. I'd seen Alfred Hitchcock some, but then, you know, Lost in Space came out, and you did some other ones, like you guest starred on My Three Sons. I was a big fan of that one. Watched that. We had Stanley Livingston came on the program a few years back. Yeah, he's terrific. Yeah, that was great. But so Lost in Space, I always thought this show was so good. But then when I went back years later and watched it, still good, still have incredible memories. There's moments of that show that still kind of, make me kind of nervous or whatever, just like those feelings when I was younger. But I don't remember when I was younger, the kind of silliness of the show. There was some silly parts to that. And I always wondered what your thoughts were on that. Did the show get too silly, as it went along? And went away from more of the serious storylines, or was that just an evolution of the show and it was all good?
Well, like what we were talking about earlier, that the first season was in black and white.
Yeah.
So it really had a different feeling about it.
I think it did. It was more it was more of a thriller to me.
Yes, it was more Outer Limits,
yes.
Twilight Zone. It was more serious. It was darker, and it had a little bit more of a morality tale, in each one, and really more about if you are indeed lost in space as a family, how do you survive? I mean, there were still monsters, and there,
right.
and hurricanes and all kinds of terrible weather and earthquakes, but it was always about how we as a family connected in order and helped each other. And of course, Dr. Smith was a part of that, and he was always so he was always so fearful and an underlying danger to him.
Right.
And he decided that Jonathan did, and of course it made him the star of the show,
right.
Dr. Smith, that he would be thrown off the show, or somehow written out, if he continued to be such a dangerous feeling villain.
He was scary that first season, I thought.
Scary. Yes. And he knew how to do that. But he also knew that he needed to become the villain you love to hate.
Right.
And that's what he did. And so when we went into color, Batman was on, and things were beginning to change in television. There was so much going on politically,
right,
in our country, and the war and Vietnam and civil rights and women's liberation. I mean, there were so many things societally happening, and excuse me. And so I think they decided we're going to do more fun. We're going to we're in color now. We're going to make everything more like comic book.
And some of the episodes I thought worked really well. But then some of them I didn't enjoy as much the second time through. When I was a kid watching them, it was all good.
Yeah, it was all good for children. And but I think it began to get Irwin didn't know what to do with us by the end of the third year. And he was doing other shows. So, the head of CBS asked for some storylines that it would be happening in the fourth year, and Irwin just never gave it to him. So the CBS just said, to hell with it, we're not doing it anymore. And which was too bad, because we were always, in the top 20.
Oh, there was no reason it couldn't have went for several more seasons.
Oh yeah,
you had Star Trek back then too, same thing. It was only a couple seasons, 3 seasons, I think.
Yeah. And well, Star Trek continued. I mean, it has.
It did. It came back very strong.
Yeah, amazing. I loved Star Trek.
Yeah.
But I was very sad to see that the show didn't continue. But on the other hand, I thought, well, now I can do other things. I loved that. Uh, uh, I actually, there were parts of the second and third season that I really did get a kick out of. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh,
talking
there
to
were
a
some very good moments, very good episodes from there.
talking to a giant carrot was the highlight. What was his name? Tubo or Tuberous or something.
I will
Tybo,
say
Tybo
that
was it.
he could play shocked better than anybody.
I go to conventions and there was one man who actually made a carrot costume. I could not believe he must have spent months doing it. It was wonderful.
Fans are
And
the best.
yeah, and you have to hand it to the writers. When they were writing this episode, they must have been giggling the whole time. I mean, how could you not? How could you not?
Yeah.
Giant carrots, celery stalks on Jonathan. We originally had a llama who was a purple llama who was supposed to not a religious one, but purple llama who was who was supposed to be, Jonathan's nemesis. Well, he was Jonathan's nemesis because Jonathan was dressed with carrots, all over him.
Yep.
And the llama kept going at his crotch.
Of course.
I'm not working with this animal anymore. Let it out, get it going. And so he was replaced with a very small, lovely young man with purple as well. But oh my,
Had to replace the llama just with a
he,
guy.
with a guy. Yes.
So he would leave Dr. Smith alone.
Maybe his name was Tybo. I don't remember. But yes. And yeah, he was replaced. Didn't go after Jonathan's carrots. I mean, yeah, carrots or celery for that matter. But oh my Lord. Yeah, that was one of the silliest, right? And most of us, we could not keep a straight face.
Yeah.
And we'd look at each other and we'd start to say something, we'd start laughing, and Irwin finally had to come down on the set and say, "What's going on here? What's going on here? You've got to settle down. Time is money. Time is money." Of course, he's a producer, so but he's.
Well,
I
you're
said,
dealing, a large part of the cast was pretty young.
we were young, and Mark would say things to me, and to the crew. Because he studied with Strasberg, right? And he'd say, how do I talk to a carrot? Tell me, how do I talk to a carrot? What's my intention?
How do I feel about this carrot? What's my motivation?
My motivation? Where's my motivation? And of course, when we talk, it would be hard not to laugh. It would be hard not to laugh. But those were very good memories, even though it seemed so silly at the time. I mean, but we laughed and laughed. We couldn't help ourselves.
That's amazing. That's what you want, right? As an actor is you want to be able to enjoy what you're doing.
Right. And we did. We had most of the time we had a good time on the set. We played killer Scrabble. Billy was always playing his guitar, and I was telling him, "Oh, do you know this? Do you know that song?" And we would sing together. So yeah, it was good. And the kids, Billy and Angela got along very well.
Yeah.
In fact, they had a romance after the show, and when they got a little older, and yeah,
That stuff
yeah,
happens when you're around that age and you're, working with each other closely.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Do you stay in touch with them?
I do. I was supposed to do the Hollywood show, but I had a previous commitment and I couldn't go, but that this year. But we'll get together again in the next show. But yeah, we talk, and Angela has moved part of the time to Texas, so I don't see her as much as I used to.
Yeah.
But, I love both of them. They really are like a brother and sister to me. We had so much fun working, and even we had quite an age difference. It was, well, as you get older, the age difference
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
it disappears. But in fact, when Angela and I flew to London to do the movie, we had, small parts in it. We really got to know each other well. And my mother had recently passed away, and I was trying to determine whether I would go or not. But then I thought, well, Mom would want me to,
That's
and
right.
and I did, but I was in such mourning. But Angela just carried me through that time, and I really love her for that. And
You
Bill
know,
too.
as a fan, I love hearing that you're still close with some
Yeah,
of the cast. Because that's what we want. You're watching these people that you kind of love, and you love the show, and in your head you're like, that's a family.
that's
So
right.
it's kind of nice when you're a grown up and you can kind of talk about that, and you're like, yeah, you're still kind of a family. I don't know, it's kind of nice.
Yeah, and I don't talk to June very often.
Mhm.
She's 97 now.
I was gonna say June.
90?
June's doing okay. She's
Yeah,
97's pretty good.
she's doing. She is one of the smartest women I have ever met.
Really?
Oh, so well read, remembers everything. I think she has a photographic memory. Uh, and when my husband, who admired for some reason the Goodyear blimp, every time it was in the sky, look, oh, I wish I were on it. So I thought for his 50th, I would surprise him
Oh,
and
that's good wifing there.
get him on that blimp. So I thought, how do I do this? How do I do this? Well, I called June. And she said, oh, what a hoot. She said, I will absolutely help you, but with one condition. I said, oh, what is that? She said, you bring me. And I said, it's a deal. So Kevin was a big brother, and so we brought Jason, and we brought and June and my girls, and we drove down to Carson, and Kevin didn't know. We didn't tell him. Saw it. He went, no, no. We said, yes, yes. And we went up there in that air, in that Goodyear blimp. And oh, it was a thrill.
I'm
It
gonna
was,
say though, I bet he wouldn't shut up about that for a long time.
oh, for a year. Oh, he never did. Never did. And June and he became really good friends
Oh, that's
because
nice.
she was what she called the band chick for a group called Legal Voices, and he was an plaintiff's elder abuse attorney, and when she found out that he enjoyed singing, she goes, "Oh, Marta," she said, "What? I'm ahead of this. I mean, I'm part of this group called Legal Voices." And she got Kevin in, so they would drive to rehearsal. He would pick her up. They would drive to rehearsal every week. And so they got to know each other and had a flirtation.
Oh,
I think, and they really enjoyed each other's
that's
company.
great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty nice. But
It was
that's what
really,
happens, when you're around nice people, you tend to become friendly with them.
that's right. That's right. I was not jealous. I appreciated it.
Yeah,
And I was glad that they enjoyed each other's company.
yeah, that's pretty great. What did you think when the movie came around? The I think it came out in '98. What was the thought there? Did you think, oh, this is a great idea? Was it just, I'm just happy it's back, or were you a little worried about it?
I wasn't worried about it.
Yeah,
I was glad that it was being done, and because we had wanted it to be done for a long time.
yeah. I'm
And
surprised it took them that long to
yeah,
really do.
yeah. But you could have named it something else. I mean, it really didn't follow. They wanted to make it dark.
Right.
They wanted to modernize it. And they wanted to, have more a dysfunction in the
Right.
family. And, that wasn't what we were about. I mean, our
Yeah.
show.
I didn't
And
mind the more grown up aspects, but
yeah,
the dysfunction in the family kind of bothered me, because that was part of the reason I loved the show so much. Was it's
right,
such a tight
right.
family.
Yes, yes, and that's what I thought. And yeah, in fact, when we did the Blu-ray, And we, we did a table sitting of Billy's version of our coming back, the last show. He wrote it when he was very young.
Yeah.
So the mother, me, in this next show, in the Blu-ray, I was now married to Mark or to Major West, and we had a child. But in it, I was always screeching at the child, and I said, and then there was supposed to be a relationship between Penny, and it was unacceptable. And so I said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it, because it was dysfunctional.
Right.
Because it didn't reflect what we were about, truly about, and that was the unity of a family, and the caring and love that you have for each other. That was that. I don't know, my lights. That was what was about. That's what the show was about, and so it. So anyway, Billy thankfully rewrote it and made me more human and softer, and took out the romance between Penny and Don, and made us as a couple reflect on what we had experienced, and that we were going back to Earth, and going back to Earth, what we were going to face.
Right.
And we would have to redefine who we were as a couple.
Yeah.
And as a family. And so and I liked that. I very much liked those questions and those that reality.
Right.
And having to face that.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't? It's like when when a couple has go on vacation together by themselves without anyone else. All of a sudden, you're faced with, oh my God, who are you?
Right.
Who am I? You have a picture of somebody behind you going, yeah, and all of a sudden, you're looking at each other as semi-strangers in a way, because you've been so busy.
Yeah, I get that, because could you imagine if something like that actually happened? If you had a family that was just gone for years and then just showed back up, I mean, they'd be celebrities instantly.
Exactly.
But just if that had actually happened, you'd be out there on your own, relying on each other, getting close with each other, and then all of a sudden you'd be this center of attention, almost like a little bit of a circus.
Yes.
That would be difficult to navigate as a couple, I think.
Actually, absolutely. Yes. And you would be seeing each other with different eyes.
Yeah.
and different emotions. I mean, yeah. So yeah. Anyway, I think the Blu-ray addressed that finally.
Yeah, I kind of love that.
Yeah.
I kind of love that. Well, so we just finished up the new show. What'd you think of that?
I thought the new show was again, they tried to make Lost in Space. It was a good show. I loved the cast.
Oh, it was casted really well.
Really well. And of course with the AI, and I actually liked the robot. Stephen Colbert had on his show at one point when it first came out, comparing the two robots, the classic
I remember.
and the new. And I mean, come on, it was really, really different. And he was talking about the sexual one versus, the bucket of bolts, and the new one was definitely had more appeal.
That's right. Although I'm very partial to that old robot.
I love that old robot, a bucket of boats.
I mean, people that don't even know Lost in Space know Danger Will Robinson.
They do. Yes. Yeah. Danger. In fact, I was although I my church is not part of the Jewish community. It's a Catholic community. We always have a Seder.
Yeah.
And I have been asked quite a few times to host the Seder. And so, I talk about all the different things that we're going to be eating. And there's one horseradish that we eat. And the last time I was saying, but be very careful when you take a bite of that, because danger, danger. You're going to feel it. And there were some people out there who said, oh my God, I know who that is. I know what she's referring to.
Now it makes sense.
I can do this. But I just said, danger, danger. They got a kick out of that.
One of my mother's favorite movies was Beach Blanket Bingo, if you can believe that. So I've seen that many times. That was another one. When we go to my grandparents, they would show. I remember the cable channel was channel 53 out of Wheeling, West Virginia.
Oh my
And
God.
they would show a lot of stuff from the 50s and 60s. But I remember that one. Weren't you were the mermaid, right?
I was Lorelei the mermaid.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh yeah.
That's what I thought. My mother, I mean, she a big Frankie fan, right? Of course. But
Oh.
she loved Annette, and she would call it because as kids we could never pronounce her last name, so she would call her Annette Funny Jello.
Oh,
My entire life I've grown up thinking that was her last name. Was Funny.
that is so cute. Oh my gosh. Well, I have to tell you, Frankie is the same. I don't think he's ever changed. I saw him at a charity event, and we started talking, and he was so charming and so groomed, and
He's always so put together.
he's so put together. And I mean, and then I saw him at a convention, and we talked and talked and talked. He's charming, he's kind, he's great to his fans, and with his fans. And I just adore him. I adore him. I never got to know Annette Funicello.
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 I know I've told you that now, and that's what's going to pop in your head now.
It's going to follow me throughout my life. Anyway, she was rather shy making the movie. She sort of stayed by herself.
Yeah.
And I think she had so much fame as a very young person that that I think she felt a little bit of shyness and fear of going out. But when she was on the set, she was terrific. My husband had a mad crush on her, and I think it was because she was quite developed.
She was advanced for her age.
For her age, and for yes, and so he sort of fell in love with her from Mickey Mouse Club.
I mean, she's like people my age and a little older. She's who you think of when you think the Mouseketeers.
Right.
She's who you think of. There was a ton of them, but she's who most people kind of
think. That's right. That's right. He certainly did. He certainly did.
Yeah.
But the beach blanket bingo. I love water. I'm well, people would say, well, what is your sign? Well, I'm a Pisces. And so I love to be in the water, and always have. And so being a mermaid just sort of came a natural to me. Most people think that the water scenes were all done in a tank in a studio. No, I was out there in the Pacific.
You were actually in the ocean.
I was in the Pacific in November.
Oh, it's cold anytime.
It's cold in the summer. It's even colder in the winter. And I remember the director would call out on his megaphone, "Marta, smile." And I would go, okay. And the surf would be taking me one direction, and then the surge would go, and there was a rock behind me, and I was a little worried about going into the rock. There was a guy in a wetsuit behind the rock, but I was there pretty much in the all in all.
Yeah.
And
I don't know how you did it. I remember going into the ocean at Venice Beach for the first time. And I love the ocean, but on my end of the country, it's warm water when you go to the ocean. But I went out there and I got about thigh high and I couldn't even feel my legs. And I was like,
That's true.
no thanks. No thanks. I don't have to stay out there.
I know you go in and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. But once you get in there and you can sort of get used to it, it's okay. Because I used to body surf. I haven't done that for a while.
You can't tell it, but I'm actually world-class body surfer.
Are you?
There's very few things I would say I'm good at. Body surfing's one of them. I've always been good at it. I don't know why.
You're fish. You're part fish.
It's one of those things I always tell people. I'm really good at the stuff that doesn't have a lot of practical application.
Well, I went to the Galapagos with my husband and we body surfed with dolphins.
Oh my gosh. I would love that.
It was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, the dolphins were playing with my fins and I'm going, I was saying to Kevin, I'm a little worried about this.
Well, you're safe if there's dolphins around.
Yes.
So they say.
Yeah. Well, they were just.
I wouldn't want to test it.
It was a thrill. And I that's one of the highlights of my life. And
that's amazing.
Oh my God, it was amazing. But yeah, I live right near the ocean. So so I have almost drowned by being in surf that was so big and so.
Yeah, it's scary.
It's scary. I couldn't find the bottom of I couldn't to push off. I got caught in, a series of waves that just were huge and over. So, but I got back in the water.
That's right. You got back. Well, I'll quickly tell you my my favorite body surfing story, but it doesn't have a nice ending like yours did. When my wife and I first got together, our first trip, we had both been divorced, so we were bringing children into the marriage. So when we first got together, we took them to the beach as a way to kind of bond as a family. So I'm out there doing my body surfing thing and just having the best time. And I caught this wave. And in my head, I'm thinking, I'm going faster than anybody has ever went, ever. It's the best body surfing run ever. And I was just like I was shot out of a gun. It was so fast. Yeah. Well, then I slammed into somebody. And I mean, I hit them hard. And I'm underwater. And it it hurt me. So I'm like, oh, I've killed somebody.
Yeah.
I've really hurt somebody. So I come out of the water. Well, and my wife's there, and that's who I hit was my new wife, and I hit her in the stomach and just knocked everything out of her. She had the snot bubbles, and all the air was out of her. She's gasping for breath, and I was like, I messed this up.
Yeah,
happy ending. We're still together. But
you're still together.
I always got a kick out of that because I just came up and I was expecting something bad, and it was her.
It was her. Oh, Lord.
Needless to say, I didn't mention that I was also kind of hurt.
Oh, yeah, right. No, that would not have been good.
Yeah.
Your head is bleeding, your teeth are gone.
That's it.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Well, she said that she was she attempted to move out of my way, and just the water took me right the direction she moved in. I just slammed right into her.
And when you're moving, boy, you're moving.
Oh, you couldn't stop it.
Oh, no. I guess
I was expecting to end on the beach.
Yeah.
Didn't quite make it there.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, when I got out and I was, I was so glad to finally get a breath but I started vomiting and I was just, it was scary.
It's terrifying when you can't find somewhere to put your feet.
Yeah.
It's really scary.
Yeah, I was doing this and this and going down and up.
Oh my gosh. That makes my stomach upset just thinking about it.
Yeah.
I forgot you were in Battle Beyond the Stars.
How could you forget?
I know. I can't believe I did, because that one, we'd always heard it was kind of brought about because of Star Wars and some of these other ones. It kind of took inspiration from those movies. But it was Richard Thomas
Love him.
I know, I do too. John Boy. And I had years ago, I was working in New York, and I was on subway, and he was riding the subway, and he's just working on something. You know, had his head down working on something, and I'm looking around like, that's John Boyd. Isn't anybody see who's sitting across? He's right across from us. Nobody, because they probably see him all the time.
Right.
But I always liked him. Everything that
don't connect
that he's
either.
done. Yeah.
When they see you somewhere else, it doesn't make sense that you should be there rather than, you know, as John Boy, or, you know,
seems out of place.
Subway. You should be, you know, in your family, you know.
I always thought he was just a really good actor. Thought he did.
And you know, I've seen him on other things. He's recently been on Broadway in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just, there's something so real and truthful and gentle about him. He's always had, I've always felt that about him. And it was quite an honor to work with him. And I didn't do many scenes with him. I was mostly George Peppard.
Yeah.
But I was supposed to be his love interest. I think he was a little disappointed because he would have rather been with, the woman who, beautiful, blonde, you know, buxom woman that, but, you know,
George.
Yeah, I thought I was more, you know, interesting looking, but yeah.
I agree.
Looks aren't everything. Well, you know, yeah, it was supposed to be, I think, a takeoff on The Seventh Samurai. And
it was, it was based on that too. Yeah, or kind of inspiration from that.
Yeah, and inspired by that. And who did that? Soderquist? No, what was his name? The director of
he's
that.
famous. Yeah.
Oh, famous. Some of his movies have been some of my favorites.
Same.
There's one called The Descendant, where it's about a boy who is in a village, a very small village, and he hears he has some issues, and he hears a train in the distance, and he says his words for the sound of the train is the descendant, the descendant, the descendant, and so this was Soderquist. Oh wait, I can't. Kurosawa. Kurosawa.
Yeah.
Kurosawa loved that movie.
Yeah.
And was near suicidal when it didn't do well.
Really?
But it was a personal movie to him.
I gotta go look that movie up.
Yeah, the Descendant. And it's about a village, and you know, and the samurai come in, and but it's the sweetness of the community once again. And maybe that's why I loved it so much.
Well, it probably was.
Yeah, it was about how communities come together, not unlike Lost in Space. But again, Kurosawa was very unhappy about it not being accepted.
I gotta look that up. Yeah, I've never heard that story.
Yeah, Kurosawa.
That's pretty good. So I know we got to wrap up pretty soon, but I wanted to mention your appearance on Trapper John, which I just finished rewatching MASH. I'm getting ready to talk with Loretta Swit, so I'm just going to. She's the best. I was like, I'm going to rewatch MASH. Well, of course, it's based on that character, but it's a different guy playing, you know, Trapper John. But I just thought that was fun because I didn't realize. I used to watch that show, but I didn't realize you'd been on there.
Well, I do want to mention that I have written a children's story called Birgit's Dream. Birgit,
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, Birgit was my birth name. Birgit Annalisa Rusanen. And I've written this very, very small, short piece about what a child at 3.5 in an orphanage wants and needs, dreams about.
Well, is it short story, or is it designed for, you know, kids?
It's for children.
Okay.
Starting at age 6, around 6.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
but I'm illustrating it now. Now, I thought, oh, that'll be a breeze because I love to paint.
That's probably the hardest part. Oh, did you do that one
That is,
behind you?
yeah, that is painting in a style that I want to realize is not as easy as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I love early Matisse, so I thought, well, I want to do it with that freedom and that color, and
Yeah.
but I'm doing the drawings now. I'm doing the mock book right now as a template for my going into the painting of it.
Right.
And I'm excited
Oh,
about it.
that's so exciting. I mean, it's probably too early to have like a release date or anything like that yet.
Well, I'm hoping to have it by the end of this year.
Oh,
And
yeah,
the
it's coming
60th
fast.
anniversary of Lost in Space, because it's about what every child needs, and that is unconditional love and safety. And that's what I hope for every child in this world. And it's not happening.
No.
And I'm very, very upset about what's happening in the Middle East and what's happening in Ukraine and the Slavic
You
countries.
think we'd be to the point at this time in history where we were past trying to take over an area that somebody else is already there? I don't really get that.
You would think.
You would think.
You,
I mean, no, I'm so glad you brought that up, and you should be writing a story about that. I wrote a little story that I want to turn into a book, just for the grandkids. You know, I don't really have a design to publish it, maybe, but I wanted it for them. And my wife paints, and she was going to do the illustration. Well, she is going to do the illustrations, but we're in that. My vision of what I kind of see in my head is difficult to explain to her so that she can match it. So we're working through that, and she's the talent.
Well, what's weird is that I thought it would be a cinch to be able to do the drawings, because I love to paint. But it's, the story is from my heart. And so the painting has to be from there as well. And to define that, I can do it sort of with abstract art, but to really define the drawings with that is a challenge. But I'm doing it.
I love that, and good for you. And I can see the emotion when you talk about it, which makes me really want to read it.
Well, there's a sweetness throughout the whole piece. It's not about loss. It's about gain. It's about being happy. It's about children having the feeling, excuse me, of, excuse me.
Yeah.
Sweetness. I started, the tears are.
Yeah, I know, you got choked up. I totally get it. And rightfully so. I'm glad you're doing that. That has to be kind of like, in addition to everything else, it has to be a little bit cathartic to kind of get some of that out.
It is cathartic. It's difficult.
Right.
Because I'm revisiting the loss.
Yeah. I'm
revisiting the feeling of being an orphan, of not having what I wanted. But then, finding my parents adopting me, who were the greatest gift in my life, saved my life, I think. So it's all of those emotions that, happen to you when you're thinking about your past and about your future and about who has helped you and who's been there for you, who has held you up when you needed it. And they were always there for me. And that's what, and even though the story is simple and doesn't have that, I'm not telling that story, but I am telling that story. I mean, it's underneath it all. It's complicated.
I love that. What's the title again?
Birgit, Birgit, that was my name, Birgit's Dream. And it's fun. I have a little Birgit sitting with this huge book in her lap and surrounded by birds, and there's always a cat. And
Of course.
my parents had a black cat, and I had a black cat, and there's always this cat, and the cat is looking out from the book with her, and her little feet are showing, and her little hands are showing, but then her little head is showing with a big bow. I always had a bow in my hair in the orphanage. I don't know why they put it in, but and I like my hands. I can't keep nails or anything clean, and I talk about that. And I haven't changed since I was a little girl, because I'm always playing in the dirt. And anyway, but I'm surrounded. Birgit's surrounded by flowers and clouds and birds and
Sounds awesome.
trees and yeah. Anyway, that's Birgit's
Well,
dream.
I didn't tell you, my son Brett that does all the hard stuff for the podcast, the editing, that type of stuff. His day job, he's a children's librarian. So you got to let me know when that comes out, because he'll get that for the county.
Oh, absolutely. I will send it to you.
Yeah, because he would love that, because that's his favorite time of the week is story time. When he gets to interact with the kids. So yeah, he'll be excited about that.
I'm hoping, my ambition is that, it maybe I'm reaching too far, but why not? I'm hoping that I can travel with the book and read it, do readings.
Well, come on, we'll host you. Come on.
Okay, I'm there.
West Virginia, that's an easy drive. 2-3 days.
Mountain high. West Virginia, no.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm mixing songs, but
I know, that's right. Well, yeah, maybe. We got almost home. There you go.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I've driven through, and it's horse country, and
it is horse country. Yeah. Yeah. If you like outdoors, West Virginia's the place. I mean, they've got more people in LA than we've got in the whole state. So if you're outdoorsy and don't, particularly like the big city traffic,
I don't.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Now, if you like, fancy restaurants and things to do that are more indoors, West Virginia probably not for you.
Well, I'll tell you, my husband and I traveled to Nepal 5 times. We trekked. I think we went over Mahagunas Pass, which was like 21,000, and then we went down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I trek every day. I hike every day.
Really?
So, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Don't tell my wife that, because she is constantly on me to take her hiking, and I got to do a better job with that, because she loves it.
Michael, I just hiked with wolves.
No, you did.
3 tamed wolves. And this past weekend with Vernon Wells. Do you know who Vernon Wells is?
I've had Vernon on the program.
Oh, well, he's my neighbor. And he said, Marta, you want to go? And I said, yeah.
Yeah.
And we sat with the wolves. They went round to each of us in their enclosures. And then there were 3 that are tame enough to go hiking. And we went hiking up into the high desert. It was spectacular. Amazing. Oh my God. I've never, wolves, we have to save them. We have to save them.
Agree.
Yeah.
There's a, I'll give you this quick story, and then I'll let you go. But there's a Simpsons episode where the grandfather gets trapped outside, and he's trying to get back in. Nobody's can hear him knocking, and he says, "It's cold out here, and there's wolves." So that's the line. Well, when my wife first started traveling, years ago, every time she'd go somewhere, I would send her that clip. Meaning more, I'm home alone. It's cold and there's wolves. Please hurry home. That's what I was saying there. Well, over time, over the years, that has evolved to now, I just send her a picture of a wolf. I don't even, no explanation, nothing. Just when she goes on trip, I send a picture of a wolf. Now, it may be maybe a wolf in the summer, winter, maybe it's if I'm like, maybe I've got a cold or something, I'll try to find a wolf that looks a little sick. I'll send that to her. But it doesn't have, like, if somebody saw it, they'd be like, what is this? But it did have an origin, but that's what we do now.
Wolves, yes. They're beautiful, sensitive, intelligent creatures. I mean, they just,
When talk about family, wolves know family.
They know family. Yeah. I mean, I picked out the alpha wolf. He's the one that walks around and he's not aggressive.
Right.
He just makes sure that everybody's doing well. Everybody's doing what they should be. And kind. He's kind and thoughtful. Oh, they're such magnificent creatures. Oh my God. And Steve and Paula, who run the sanctuary, work 24/7 with the wolves. 24/7.
I'm so happy you went with Vernon. That's awesome.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
He's Vernon. A character.
Vernon. I love Vernon.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've made 2 films together already.
Really?
Yeah.
Which ones did you do?
We did something called what was it called? It was a film short. And another one, Bachelor's Valentine.
Oh, I know that one.
The other one was supposed to be shown at Sundance, and the director producer got sick, and but it's still going to be out. But it's a funny film short. I can't remember the name.
I'll keep an eye out for it. I've seen that other one because I remember when I was prepping for Vernon's interview.
Oh yes,
putting that one on there. Yeah, that's. Have you ever been to Sundance?
No, I'd love to go.
I went in 2020, if you can believe it. We got back from Sundance, and literally within days they shut everything down.
Oh yeah,
But if you ever get a chance to go, it's worth it. Dress warm. It's very cold.
Yeah, well, I have plenty of warm clothes.
Yeah, I was surprised at how small it was because it's really only a couple blocks. And they just have this festival in this little area, and it's packed. But yeah, it's pretty great. At least once, you got to try it.
I've been to the Cannes Film Festival.
So I bet that was amazing.
That was amazing.
A little warmer there.
A little warmer, yes, and but a lot further to go.
Well, so Marta, I thank you so much for taking a little bit of time. I was so happy. Normally, I get guests. Either a publisher or manager sends me, someone they'd like to get on, or I request from them. But we connected on Facebook, and which I'm so thrilled with, because it's not always easy to connect on Facebook because you never know if somebody's who they say they are, But here you are.
That's true.
I knew it was you though. I knew, but I followed you for a while, but. I was just thrilled to death to have you on the show. So thank you so much. Yeah, one of my favorite actresses all time.
Thank you. And such a pleasure. This was so much fun. And they're not always that way.
Well, I hope. I know. I've seen some interviews that are a little rough, but hopefully we get a chance to talk again. Or maybe a convention I'll get to see you at.
I hope so.
Yeah,
yes,
that would be terrific. So before I let you go, where can we find you on social media?
Well, I'm on Facebook and Messenger and Instagram and Instagram. I don't know.
You're pretty active, which I just it's people my age a lot of times aren't very active, and like my parents, they've got Facebook, but if I'm not there helping them with it, they're not on it.
I have to tell you, my daughter came in right before I was to go on, and I said, "Lena, help me find it." So. I'm not all that good, but I often say, I should be on, be online more and on different sites, and then life, begins to.
You gotta live. That stuff will still be there.
Yeah, it'll all be there.
All right,
I love who you are, and I'm so blessed to be a part of your energy. Thank you.
Oh, you're so kind. That's so nice. I would think that most of my friends and family, they would say that my energy might not be 100% positive. And I was like, Marta said it was.
Yes, that's all you need. Marta said it was, and there you go. And she's a wolf. And she's a wolf. And she's a wolf.
And she's a wolf. See, we were meant to talk to each other.
That's right.
All right, hold on one second, Marta.
Sorry.
Marta Kristen, wow. You guys that watch the show regularly or listen, I'm about as big a nerd as you're going to find, and I'm pretty confident in my nerd bona fides. I been a nerd for 50 some years and own comic book shops, and now kind of in this nerdy podcast thing. So I feel pretty comfortable with my nerd credentials. Marta, one of my favorite actresses ever. And part of the reason for that is I always thought she was so relatable. Whatever character she was playing, it always had this kind of softness, this realness, this kind of what a lot of her characters just feel like home to me. And I loved watching her, still do. So when we connected on Facebook, which is a rarity for this show, I was thrilled to death. You can ask my wife and Brett, especially. I've been wearing them out talking about Marta. So I just thrilled to death. And I hope you're as big a fan as I am. Hope you enjoyed that. She was terrific and just looks amazing. It looks exactly the same. I just unbelievable. And we talked about most of the things I wanted to talk about. But she's been on a lot of shows that is kind of fun to look back on. So I'll just read through those real quick. She made appearances on Murphy Brown, Scarecrow and Mrs. King, which, Bruce, if you're watching, been chasing you for a few years. Huge Babylon 5 fan. So if you're watching, love to have you on the show. We talked about Trapper John. She was on Fame. Remington Steele. Stephanie Zimbalist is one that I'd love to talk to as well. She was on Mannix. She was on Wagon Train, if you can believe that. Wagon Train's a pretty good show. Speaking of black and white shows, Man from U.N.C.L.E. I talked about My Three Sons. If you're a Stanley Livingston fan, look up that interview, because Stanley, one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. He was terrific. Alfred Hitchcock Presents and Leave It to Beaver. I should have brought that one up. I need to try to get Jerry on. But anyway, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you. Don't take you for granted at all. There's 15 million some podcasts out there and growing daily. So love that you're here. If you happen to be finding us for the first time, or maybe you're a Marta fan and you checked us out, we have done almost 800 episodes of these. In fact, when Marta's comes out, she might be number 800. It's going to be pretty close. You can find all of those audio and video versions on our website, meistercon.com. It'll let you know if we're doing something in studio, if we're going on location, if we're covering a convention, anything we got going on, be on the website, meistercon.com. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Please subscribe. It's free, but those subscriptions really help us out and help us to keep bringing in great guests. I would put our guest list against any other show, podcast, talk show, anybody. I've been joking lately because our podcast has been rating higher than Seth Meyers' podcast. And I'm a huge Seth Meyers fan, so I've been good-naturedly giving him a hard time about our podcast doing better, because he's on this national nightly show that he's promoting this podcast on. So I've been giving him a hard time about that. If you would like to know more about the podcast, you can go to imdb.com. imdb.com. They recently named us a top 100 podcast. I can't believe it. So grateful for that. But you can go on there. It's free. You can look up every episode, the guests, anything you want to know about the show will be on there. And the traffic on the page helps us out. So it's kind of a win-win. Thank you guys so much. Till next time. Bye, everybody.